the last thing I would ever want is that, first of all, anybody to be discouraged. Because first of all, you belong, you matter, and you should have a voice in there. And those kinds of things, though, they chip away at us little by little.
Hi innovators, welcome to NetworkHer's Fireside Chat. I'm your host, Rachel Bagim, and a little bit about NetworkHer is that we're an organization dedicated to helping high schoolers connect to industry professionals who are part of gender marginalized communities. If you're interested in learning more, please check out all of our socials and website, which are all linked in the description. In today's interview, we talked to Dr. Kat Schrier, who is a game designer. I know I'm very into gaming, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are too. So let's get into it. Hi, Dr. Schrier. Welcome to NetworkHer's for Fireside Chat. I'm Rachel Bagim, and I was wondering if you could just give a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for including me on this. I'm so excited to be here. And I am Dr. Kat Schrier. I am a director and associate professor of a games and emerging media program at a university called Marist College. I'm also a game designer.
So can you tell us a little bit about what led you to becoming the director at Marist?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love video games and I love board games and I love card games and I just love playing games so much. And I didn't understand when I was a kid that you could actually have a job as a game designer, as someone who can actually make those games. But doing game design is so much fun because you can combine so many different perspectives. For example, you to make a game, you need artists and programmers and game designers and an understanding of psychology and so many different areas like literature and mythology and world religions, right? So it just combines so many different areas. I just love that about it. And I did a number of jobs before becoming a game designer. I was an editor, I worked in public relations, I was a journalist, and I just love media and also teaching people and using games to teach. And that really led me to becoming interested in the field of games and education. And I got my master's at MIT and then my doctorate at Columbia University in New York City. And I then went into full-time teaching and becoming a researcher. And I love that.
So as an educator, what grades did you teach?
Well, so I work in higher education, so
Okay.
that's college age kids, but I also love mentoring students from all different ages, high school, elementary school. I taught game design to my daughter's Girl Scout troop, and they're fifth graders. So, I love teaching all different ages.
So can you give a little bit about like a little day to day, like what is it like, yeah, at your job?
Yeah, so one thing that I love about my job is that it's so varied. Every day is different. And I get to do lots of different creative kinds of activities and also teaching people. So for example, take a day like Wednesday of this week. In the mornings, I have a weekly meeting with a game design team. I'm working on a game for the World Health Organization where we're making a game to teach hand hygiene. So that's like washing your hands and doing it at the right moments. And we're teaching that to medical professionals so that they can keep people safe. And so we're working on that. And that's something I do every Wednesday in the morning. And then I have meetings with a team, a committee at Marist College where I teach. And then I, in the evening, get to teach students. So I have like a 4-hour block where I'm teaching an intro to games class where I'm teaching people the basics of game design, and we get to also make games. So that's so much fun. And then I teach a class on the ethics of game design. So that's thinking about morality and values and how we design games to teach values and like also like controversial issues that might be happening in the news. And so we talk about those issues. And so it's just like really fun series of classes.
So you said that in your past you worked as like a bunch of different jobs like editor and journalism. So how did you or do any of those skills like translate to game design?
They absolutely do. The number one skill for a game designer is communication and writing and being able to talk to people and connect with people. And being a journalist, I mean, being a journalist is so much about listening and observation and investigation. And that completely translates to being a game designer. Same with public relations. Again, it's about like talking to people, understanding their needs, understanding what the team needs and communicating that to the public. That's game design, right? And I also worked actually as a producer for websites. I worked at places like Nickelodeon. I was a producer for one of their websites. And I also worked at Scholastic, as some of you might know about like the Scholastic Book Club or the book fairs that they have. I worked as a executive producer there for their products and including games, but also websites. And so those kinds of skills translate because what you're doing is you're bringing people together, you're communicating ideas, and then you're translating that into experiences for people to love and to learn from. And that's I mean, that's game design. So absolutely these skills translate.
And what advice would you give to someone looking to break into a similar field?
Oh, well, first of all, I'd be so excited. I would want to connect with you, and if you're interested, please contact me. I would love to chat with you. But I mean, the best thing to do is just to live, to have experiences, to learn, to grow, read books, learn about mythology, learn a new language, go abroad, go to other countries, do fun things like go for hikes and like look at the sunset, and like then take those fun experiences and think about how you might translate that to a fun game.
And so what is your favorite part of your job?
Wow, there's so many favorite parts. I don't even know where to begin, but I think it's just, like as a teacher, definitely feeling like my students are learning and finding themselves and learning who they are. Like one of my students was not a game designer. He was a business major and he took one of my classes and he was so inspired that he decided to go to graduate school in game design because he was like this is his new path. And then on one of my first days of teaching this semester, one of my students came up to me, and same with her, she really wasn't that interested in games but took it just because she had to take it for a minor that she was doing, and she took it and then she like loved it, right? And then she completely changed her major to games, and now she's going to be working at Electronic Arts EA, which is like one of the biggest game companies in the world, and that's what she's doing. And she's like running play tests. I mean, it's like already like she's interning there and then it's going to turn into a job. Like I couldn't believe it. I was so thrilled. I mean, that to me, it's like inspiring someone in that way. Whether it's like through teaching or through a game, like if they play one of my games and they're inspired to learn, I mean, that's the best part of the job.
And so what are some current goals that you have like in terms of work?
Well, I have so many goals. I don't know where to begin, but I guess like the number one thing is to make people feel good about themselves, to feel loved and that they are cared for and that they belong, whether they're in my classroom or they're just in a group that I'm running or they're in a game that they're playing, that they feel this sense of belonging that they learn, that they grow, and that they feel that they could be who they want to be in this world.
And you mentioned earlier that you're working on a game to like like that applies to like actual like medical stuff. And so
Yeah.
are most of your games like meant to have like practical uses, or do you also build more like creative like games like that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So my games are all different. I do happen to like teaching through my games because I think learning is wonderful. And I just like to change the world in that one little way, right? So they really run the gamut. And the thing that I always say is that games have to be fun first and foremost. So even if it's a learning game, it still needs to entertain. You still need to have fun with it. So like take the hand hygiene game that I'm creating, which is like, for like washing your hands. And I'm teaching medical professionals. So they're not exactly the most they're adults, right? So it's an adult population, and they may not have played any games before. They may not play games regularly at all. So I have to make a game that they could learn from, but I still wanted to make it creative. So I have created the International Alien Hospital, and you need to protect the aliens because the human germs are going to hurt them a lot. And then there's different kinds of aliens, and they come from different planets, but we're friends with them and we want to take care of them. And so you get to learn about these alien worlds, and you get to help these alien friends. You obviously are keeping them safe by doing, washing your hands, but you're also doing fun activities for them. Like for one of the levels, you have to feed the pet of the alien and make sure that the pet is fed. And so you're also like getting to know them and getting to know what they care about. And so I do try to make my games both creative and also that you're learning from it at the same time.
Definitely. I mean, in my experience, learning through games, it's just like the interactivity of it, like it makes it just so much more engaging and just easier to learn. I like literally remember like in I don't even know, like third grade sitting in typing class and like you had to like make the car like race or like learning coding
That's
on
cool.
Scratch. Like it was like and I feel like those are definitely like the more fulfilling ways in which I've learned rather than just sitting like lecture style in a class.
To be honest, even I learned touch typing from a computer game, like back in the day on an Apple IIe. And I'll tell you, like the skill that I learned doing the touch typing while I was, I don't even know, sixth grade or seventh grade, that helped me so much in my life
Oh,
because like
definitely.
I'm always writing, and I luckily can type really quickly now because of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember, like, I always took it seriously. Like, a lot of my
Yeah,
friends would just like look at the keyboard. And like, I was dead set on like learning how to
I'm
type.
gonna really learn.
And now, like, it's such a helpful skill because, like, when I'm writing essays, like, I can write it much faster than like a lot of my peers and stuff. So,
Exactly.
education through games is just such a powerful
Yeah.
tool. And so, designing these games, and you said you had a passion for playing games before. So, like, what were some of your favorite games to play?
Well, my number one favorite game when I was younger, when I was in sixth grade, seventh grade, was called Maniac Mansion. And I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but you probably have heard of like maybe Day of the Tentacle and some like of the spin-offs from it. And it is just this really fun, creative game where you're trying to go through this like haunted type of mansion, or like a creepy kind of mansion. It's not even haunted, it's just silly. It's really silly. First of all, there's a green tentacle that lives there. There's also a purple tentacle. It's kind of like evil. But then there's like this like a mad scientist who's living there, and his son who has a hamster. And then there's like Edna, who's like this, she's like, what are you doing? Like, and you're like, there's like old moldy cheese in the refrigerator. Like there's just random stuff. It's just a very silly point and click adventure game. And I loved it. My whole family and I played it together. And I think that also made it really rewarding because we all like were sitting around this Apple IIe computer trying to figure it out. This was before like computer games were like, multiple people playing at the same time. So that was one of my favorites. But I also loved games like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego and Oregon Trail, like these classic educational games. And I love them so much. Like I really learned a lot from them. Like I remember playing Carmen San Diego, and it came with this almanac, and I would just like sit there and read the almanac and try to figure out like just where everything was in the world, even beyond the game. And I liked it so much that I ended up winning my school's geography bee in sixth grade because I played that game so much that I actually really learned a lot of geography from it. So that was really exciting. And yeah, and I started to see the power of learning through games even at that young age. And I just, for me, like my two passions are being creative and expressing myself, and then teaching others and having them express themselves too. And like being able to combine that through games made so much sense to me. And I did, I started in film and video production and like other creative fields like writing and doing web production. But I really felt like for me, games were particularly engaging and also so complex and interesting that I really focused when I got older, I decided to focus more on using games. But I also see the power of other kind of media and other kinds of ways of teaching. I mean, when I teach, I don't just teach with games, I teach with all different fun, whether it's videos, whether it's fun activities, whether it's just me having a discussion with students. Like there's so many ways to learn, and I value them all.
Yeah, definitely. I recently started math tutoring, so like, and I work with like younger kids, so I've started to see like how like they kind of pick up information, and it's just very interesting. And also like I'm in AP US history right now, and we were talking about like I think we were talking about like westward expansion and stuff, and like every single kid in my class just brought up like, oh my God, the Oregon Trail game in fifth grade,
Yeah.
and all of that information like all stuck with us, and it's just so great. It just it just really just goes to show like the power of like interactive learning like that. And so what are some challenges that you face in your just your work?
Yeah. First of all, I'm really excited that students still know about Oregon Trail. It's been around for 25 years or something. I mean, that's more than that, right? 35,
I'm
45.
not.
I mean, 35 years, right? At least that it's been around, and such a classic game that even now the students are still playing it and learning from it. And that's amazing. Challenges that I face. Oh gosh. I mean, my biggest challenge, I'll be honest, is believing in myself, right? So feeling like, despite all the obstacles in the world, that I can keep going and that I can do this, right? That I can make a game, that I can teach my class, that I can connect with people. I mean, that it's hard, right? It's hard to be feeling always confident enough to do it. And and like I say to everybody, like I know you can do it, like I know other people can do it, and I believe in everybody else. I think like sometimes believing in myself is hard, even though I've done it before, right? It's hard sometimes to believe in ourselves, and that's why I try to be a cheerleader for other people. I guess the next challenge is sometimes being a woman in a field that is highly dominated by men, and where like men show up and like people automatically think they know what they're talking about. When I show up, people are like, why are you here? What are you doing here? Prove yourself. And that is hard because I have to constantly feel like I have to be proving myself. And yes, I belong in the room. Yes, I belong here. Yes, I've been doing this for 25 years, maybe more. And they don't always like think that I have value. And it's and not just me, but like other people that look like me and other women and people of color. It's a challenge that I so desperately want to overcome. One of the things I'm working on right now is a book called 50 Games to Teach Inclusion, Equity, and Justice, because I want teachers to use games in this way, to think about representation, to think about issues of diversity in the games industry, to think about how we can learn the skills of things like compassion and awareness and equity and systemic racism, like to learn all of those, like how to overcome that, so that we can have a world in which people that look like me and people that look maybe not like your typical white male can be feeling like they belong and that they matter and that they have a voice in designing and being the next, creating the next game. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started like I'm very passionate about aviation and aerospace, so I began like volunteering at this museum, and the staff is completely male, and
wow.
and so like they literally were like they have not had like a girl in like 10 years or something. And like I get so many comments every single time I'm there, like, oh, like so like it's just like so like offhand, and it's just very discouraging because like sometimes they'll be like, just the first one that's coming to mind is when they're like, oh yeah, like girls aren't typically into this stuff, so like how do we know you're gonna stick around? And I'm just
God.
like
It's
why
like
don't
it's microaggression, right?
literally like I mean,
Yeah.
and what, I'm like 16, like, and I'm already have to like deal with this stuff, and it's just like so frustrating. And I
Frustrating.
remember we were doing this event, like collabing with another museum for Memorial Day, and like this guy started like catcalling me, and like it literally I didn't even know how to react, and I was like freaking out.
Horrible.
It was just I was just so uncomfortable, and I was freaking out, and I like went to my like male coworkers, and I was like, hi, I feel so uncomfortable right now. They're like, they didn't get it, they like were laughing,
Oh my God, this is horrible.
and then
Oh
they
my,
like were
this is
and then
already
they wonder
happening.
why I like hesitant to come sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous because like I know that's what it's probably going to be like when I'm older and stuff.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this is still happening. It's like when I was in my 20s, I faced a lot of sexual harassment, and it was very damaging for me in a lot of different ways, like personally, professionally, in like I was just, my hope, my deep hope was that this wouldn't happen anymore, right? In like, why, like in 20 years or 25 years later, that, my daughter wouldn't have to face this, that, my daughter's a little bit younger than you. She's almost 11,
Mhm.
and she wants to go into engineering and, computer science, and like definitely a male dominated fields, both those are, science. She's either a scientist, engineer, definitely wants to go into that. And the last thing I would ever want is that, first of all, anybody to be discouraged, because first of all, you belong, you matter, and you should have a voice in there. And those kinds of things, though, they chip away at us little by little. And I came in confident, I came in like I belong. I'm like super smart and I could do this. But those kinds of things, they chip away at your soul, they chip away at feeling like you should be here. And it's hard. And that is really the biggest challenge. It's like staying and being there and being in the room despite the boulder rolling down the hill towards you. And you're trying to push it back up the hill. You're like, please, like, and it's like, it's every day. And like for me, back in the day, I used to look young for my age. And, when I was a professor, and people would always think I was a student at the university, and they would be like, you're not allowed here because you're, not a faculty member. And constantly, like every day, something like that would happen where like someone would stop me from going into a meeting, or someone, literally one time, someone thought I was a student, a high school student, on like a high school orientation trip. And at that time, I was 40 years old, and a faculty member, and like a tenured faculty member. And the woman chased me across campus, right? Like literally chased me, thinking that I would, and I was like, I'm a faculty member. And she was like, what department are you in? And I was like, I'm in media. And she like, what high school student would say I'm a faculty member? No high school student, but she like didn't believe me. She didn't believe me. And it's hard, showing up every day when you try to go at a meeting and someone keeps you from going to it, or someone's like, oh, you look so young, like, are you sure you're a faculty member? And people think that it's a compliment, but it's an insult, because it's basically saying I don't deserve to be here, and I don't look the way I'm supposed to look to be present in these conversations. And yeah, I guess like society thinks that being young is a good thing, but it's not in a professional setting a good thing. And it doesn't make you feel confident and good. And so it chips away. It chips like those little tiny things, the cat calling, the guys laughing, right? The people not affirming your feelings, right? Those, they chip away, and it's not right. It's not right. And like, how do we change that, right? How do we change that culture? Because I definitely don't want you to not be in the field that you love, because you should be there. You deserve to be there.
I'm like very fortunate to have I participate in Code with Classy. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's just a program for just like women to learn how to code, and it's just like an all-female environment, and it's extremely like uplifting. And I feel like if I didn't have that environment like to back me up, I really don't think I would have the courage to like continue like showing up every day. But I know if I don't, then like it's like you have to show up on days, especially like when you feel like you can't, is what like advice I've gotten. Because like if not me, then like who else is gonna be there and like pave the way for more women to be in these fields and stuff.
That's a really great point that you mentioned, that having a cohort of women, like a group of women and a group of people that are like you, that you can, have that support system, is really important. I don't have that. And what I did was I tried to create something called the Inclusive Games Network, which is a group to be that safety, safe, vulnerable space where people can be themselves and feel like they belong in the games industry, and to talk about those kinds of issues, and to feel that sense of camaraderie. Because I don't have, right now, even now, I don't have that group, and it's like, it's all on me. It's very isolating. But I'm hopeful for the future that we can create those kinds of spaces.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And this is a very valuable conversation to have. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here.
so wonderful. Thank you for having me, and for being one of those wonderful spaces for people to lift people up. Thank you.